on locations throughout the world.
Standing passengers, please do not lean against the doors.
Picture goers, we bring to you new films of interest.
Chicago in State is next. Doors open on the left.
The miracle of the motion picture.
Please be considerate when talking on your phone or listening to electronic devices.
Chicago's a nice town if you're looking for pizza.
Welcome to 4 Stars, a Chicago film podcast, a podcast where we talk about movies set in Chicago.
Each episode, we'll be discussing a different movie that's set in or was filmed in the Chicago area, its cultural/historic relationship to Chicago, and whether it's a good representation of the city.
We want to figure out what makes Chicago movies different from movies about other cities, and to answer the question of what a Chicago movie even is. I never sort of considered the fact that our podcast is like an investigative journalism thing. Follow us on this short miniseries as we figure out what a Chicago movie really is.
That's a good point. The serial.
And you know what? In the last episode, it's all going to be a con, Paco.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's no such thing as a Chicago movie. It was made up.
Chicago is not even a real city.
Chicago's not real. It's all Greater Joliet, right?
Yeah.
I am one of your hosts, Jeremy Martyr. I am the GM of the Heights Theater in Minneapolis.
And I'm Paco Alvarez, a journalist based in Chicago. And on today's episode, we'll be talking about The Sting, directed by George Roy Hill and starring the two hottest guys who ever lived, Paul Newman and Robert Redford.
And later in the episode, we will be joined by Peter Raleigh, a local film writer in the city of Chicago. Paco, but before we get into that, do you want to tell us what was going on in late 1973?
Yes. This movie, The Sting, came out Christmas Day, 1973. This would be a great movie to go see with your family on Christmas. That's probably why it did so well, is because everyone just went to go see their family. Gas prices were $70 a gallon. The world was on fire, but why not go see Paul Newman and Robert Redford hang out? So the headline that I picked out from the Chicago Reader that got me into a little bit of a rabbit hole was Probers. Kane sought to lure gamblers away. And it's about Richard Kane, who was a former crooked cop turned mobster. It's kind of, he was like in and out of the police department or various police departments, but he was pretty much always working for the mob. He was like a mob guy, who was a few days before Christmas shotgunned to death by two ski masked men in front of Rose's sandwich shop. And the article is about how before his death, he had been trying to organize 12-day cruises on a gambling ship off the Florida coast. So Richard Kane was deeply embedded in the Chicago mob scene. He had a pretty close relationship to, I don't have to say allegedly because he's dead because he got shotgunned to death, but he had a close relationship to Sam Giancana, who was the leader of the Chicago outfit through the 50s and the 60s. And Richard Kane was, as I mentioned, while he was in the police department, he was kind of the guy that, he was kind of like a mole for the mob. He was kind of like a Matt Damon in The Departed type situation. And then...
Okay.
And then he also, he was a big polygraph guy, so he would like help the mob do lie detector tests on their like cronies.
When they brought polygraphs, I got into that like Ryan Coogler.
Yeah.
When they invited polygraphs, he really got into that.
Yeah. And he also like would set up like spy things for like he would bug places for both the police and the mob. But Richard Kane, what I kind of got into
like the conversation.
Yeah, I kind of got into a little rabbit hole with him is because, so in the early 60s, Richard Kane was allegedly hired by the CIA to train former Cuban dissidents to assassinate Fidel Castro.
What?
Yeah. So Richard Kane would like round up Cuban immigrants in Chicago and like take them down to like Mexico.
He was the Gusano Whisperer?
Yeah, and he would like train them to with the help of the mob to assassinate Fidel Castro, because famously,
What? Sorry, this is insane.
yeah, the mob did not like Castro after the revolution because he kicked them all out. And the CIA worked with the mob in various schemes, many of them pretty hilarious, to try and assassinate Fidel Castro. And Richard Kane was part of them. He wrote a movie, like he wrote a script about the Bay of Pigs invasion based off his experience training Cuban refugees. And he was like in the months before his death, he was like, apparently he was like achieving financing and was going to get it produced. And one of the people who was in talks of directing it that he claimed was David Lean. Wouldn't that be crazy?
A David Lean Bay of Pigs that is pro
Yeah.
Batista.
Yeah, funded by a
Funded by
mob
the US.
guy. Yeah, and the
That's
US government.
I won't say that I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want that history to take place, but I also would like to see it. Just to lift the veil a little bit, I don't read these, Paco, before the episode because I like hearing. That was a legitimate response. I was like, "What the hell did you read? This is in the newspaper?"
Yeah, it was in the newspaper.
I also thought this was Dean Cain for a little bit.
That'd be. I mean, could be. And so obviously, one of the theories as to who assassinated JFK, of which I have no opinion of, and it could be anyone could have done it, is that, it was the mob or the CIA, or it was, angry ex-Cubans, or not, angry Cubans who had been trained by the CIA and were mad at JFK for botching the Bay of Pigs. So obviously Richard Kane is also featured in a lot of JFK conspiracy theories, and there's one written in some book from 1992 called Double Cross, and the authors claim that Richard Kane, along with another guy, were the two gunmen who actually killed JFK, and it was actually him who had done it, who had fired from the 6th floor of the Texas Book Depository, not Lee Harvey Oswald. But apparently that seems like that was probably bullshit claim. Unfortunately, Richard Kane's brother, Michael J. Kane, in the 2000s published a book that I'm interested in reading called The Tangled Web, The Life and Death of Richard Kane, where he tried to probe into whether or not his brother was involved in the JFK assassination.
And this is where I asked you to stop talking because we were going to start writing the screenplay based on his life, like we've said with so many of the subjects.
This guy definitely, there
On
needs
this
to be a
podcast.
movie about this guy, because it's crazy.
Yeah.
He was involved in just so many random things. And yeah, I don't know, but he died, unfortunately. He passed by being shotgunned in front of Rose's sandwich shop.
The way you said it was, he unfortunately recently died. Complications from
being shotgunned.
but from being shotgunned.
Yeah.
Most people who suffer from being shotgunned end up dying.
Yeah, unfortunately. We haven't found a cure to that.
We have not. There's a vaccine, but it's long in development.
Yeah.
Anything else going on in the city, or do you want to start talking about this movie?
Nothing specifically that happened around this day, but I will say that the Sears Tower was completed in 1973.
The Sears Tower.
Yes.
I don't know. Oh, the Willis Tower. Got it. Okay. No, I don't consider it the Sears Tower, Paco. It's Willis for me.
It's Willis. It's
I don't
always
know.
been Willis.
It's always been Willis. We actually have some setting up to do before we start talking about this movie, because we are doing, for the first time on the podcast, we're doing a miniseries.
Yes.
So you are actually listening to the first episode, One Less Score. we're doing a miniseries here, Paco, because we decided to group these films together that have a thematic tie of con men, of heists, of putting on the Ritz, of doing a score, and I'm excited to talk about these figures that pop up in real life, in the stories that you dig up through your research, as well as the fictional stories that were told here. This week we are covering The Sting with guest Peter Raleigh. Next episode, we will be discussing Thief, Michael Mann's Thief. I'm very excited to talk about that film. So if you want to do some homework and get out ahead of it, please watch Thief. It is on Criterion Channel, as well as probably some other stuff I
Is
didn't
it
look
actually on
up.
Criterion Channel? I feel like it might not be. It's in the Criterion Collection.
Wait, just play some Scott Joplin music while I look it up.
It's actually on the People's Criterion Channel. It's on Tubi.
It's on Tubi. Damn. Okay, well, watch Thief. Spend the $3 or find it elsewhere. Maybe you own it on a Criterion, the beautiful Criterion release that they made for it.
Yes.
So maybe you have a 4K and maybe you want to watch it on there. But that'll be next week. This week we're talking about The Sting, a 1973 picture by George Roy Hill, written by David S. Ward, and starring two of the hottest people who've ever lived, Paul Newman and Robert Redford. This is a good movie.
Yes, it's great. And we had a fun time talking to Peter about it. And here's our conversation with him.
All right, and we're going to welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Peter Raleigh, film writer and man about town. Welcome, Peter. How you doing?
Not bad. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm very excited to be here.
You have also a long and historied career as a con man. Is that true?
Yes. Then thank you for bringing that up. Actually,
Yeah.
that's
I definitely wanted to get that in for you because I know you as a man about town who cons people and swindles, etc., etc.
yeah, you wouldn't want your audience to trust me, and I understand taking that step.
Yes. And by the way, this is a sting operation.
I was gonna say by the end of this recording, we will know who was playing who and who came out on top. No, Peter is a Chicago film writer, and frequenter of the Music Box, which is where I met you, Peter.
Yes,
And
very frequenter.
Yeah, we're happy to have you on. I'm happy to talk about this great Chicago movie we're about to talk about here. Before we dive into that, Peter, can you just talk a little bit about your connection to the city of Chicago, how you came to live in this fine city of ours?
This one's an easy one, and I suppose a boring one from the podcast perspective. I was born here, born and raised. Have lived within, 20-minute walk of the Music Box for most of my life. I left for graduate school, but came back to teach and hang out and do things in Chicago. So I have lived in Chicago for, all but 6 years of my life, and no current plans to live anywhere else.
Peter, what was your line? What was your stop on the L?
Ooh, okay. So it was Southport, then Paulina, then we're both Brown Line, then Diversey, Wellington, Fullerton, that kind of little area,
Mm-hmm.
and now Addison. So it's I'm really
Sticking to the Brown
yeah,
line.
I'm occupying a Brown Line corridor. It's pretty narrow
I'm
stretch.
slightly more west and north of you at Irving Park.
Yeah, of course.
Between Irving Park and Montrose is where I grew up.
Classic
So
stop.
We grew up on literally right down the Brown
yeah.
line there.
Yeah.
Take a diagonal street pretty easily. Just keep walking up Lincoln and you'll more or less.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, I'm happy to have a real true Chicagoan on to talk about this movie that was largely filmed here and then also in LA,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much almost
a lot of studio.
Yeah, almost all sets on LA. But they do some shooting here, which is nice.
Yeah.
There's you could tell when it's
Yes.
real Chicago for sure.
They do take those opportunities, which is nice.
I'm curious, Peter. Before we started recording, you talked about how you've always loved this movie. What is your connection to this movie? Like, when did you first see it? And
Ooh, I think this is one that my parents showed me when I was like 12 or 13, and it was just sort of, they're sort of, boomer movie heads, and just kind of felt that the cult of Newman and Redford should be inculcated early and often, just kind of get get somebody started young on the sort of reverence for Paul Newman that all right-minded persons ought to have. And I think I enjoyed it right away, and I think I it just kind of was part of a film upbringing for me, and then later when I got somewhat more serious about movies, I kind of returned to it and thought this actually was incredibly sick. My parents, one hates ever to hand it to one's parents, but they were spitting on that one, unfortunately. So that's
When your parents grew up and watched the movies of New Hollywood, it's kind of like,
yeah,
there's
it's
a
not fair.
baseline
Yeah.
of entertainment here. Same with my parents. I mean, that's how I was introduced to this movie for sure. It also was, I feel like, just a movie that played on TV
Yeah.
again and again and again. And it occupied a place where I was just like, oh yeah, that's, you know, I had always assumed that Newman and Redford had like 10 movies together.
Yeah.
Just like when I was a kid, I was like, they're always in movies together.
Yep. And the way it's talked about as one of the like great screen pairings, yeah, you sort of imagine it must have happened a dozen times, and it's like, no, we had all too few of those.
yeah,
Yep.
is it just this and Butch Cassidy?
That's it, isn't it?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
No, it's wild, isn't it? I mean,
Unless Paul Newman made a late entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Robert Redford, I think that these are the only
He died
two.
in 08, so unfortunately he did not make it. He would have been good in like,
couldn't hang on for Marvel, huh? It's, man, damn, Paul.
he could have been the Red Hulk. Could have been.
They would have paid him a lot of money to be like, what am I doing here? Paul Newman has the type of blue eyes that make the other actors, when they do shot reverse shot, who also have blue eyes, make them look like they have gray eyes. It is insane.
It's crazy. That's not, you look at it and you're like, that's not a person's eye color. Come on. That's not.
Yeah. It's an alarming shade of blue. And he is, I mean, magnificent in the film we're going to talk about today, but one of the most striking movie stars of all time. We're very lucky to have the Newman starring projects. And I can't wait to dive into it with both of you. Paco, before we do that, I want to ask, because Peter and I said that we were introduced to this movie through our parents. I wanted to ask you as well. Where do you come to this movie?
Yeah,
Paco?
I mean, I must have watched it the first time. I must have watched it with my dad, but I don't remember. I think it was in high school. The thing I remembered before watching this movie was that we had like a VHS copy. This wasn't the copy I ended up watching, but we had like a giant, like one of those like big VHS copies. It must have been like some kind of like 20th or 30th anniversary edition that was just like on our like window for a really long time. And so just like from like the ages of like 9 through whenever I actually watched this movie, it was just like there. I just like knew about the sting, but I had no idea what the plot was. I had no idea like what happened in it. I just like knew that it existed, and I feel like it was like watching over me. But yeah, I watched it in high school and really, really loved it. And then so I don't know if you know this, Peter, but so Jeremy and I, this is the second time we're talking about this thing on this podcast, technically, because in 2021 we recorded several episodes of what became this podcast and then never released them, and then we came back to it several years later.
Like most people, we had a pandemic project that we abandoned.
That didn't happen. Yeah, absolutely.
And it was a way for Paco and I to keep up with each other and be like, hey, like we were movie buds. We can't hang out in person. Let's talk over Zoom, and then that became let's record our conversations over Zoom. So we talked about this movie once before. We buried those deep in a vault that will be released upon our deaths.
Yeah.
Or if one swindles the other, I'm not sure which will come
That's
first.
a good point, yeah.
But I think that I've completely. I don't know, Paco. I didn't send you the files, so you did not listen to this.
No,
right?
I haven't. I have no idea what we said.
I have no idea what we said. I truly
Oh, man,
have erased.
That's kind of fascinating. I mean, it could be anything in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and that's why we're locking it up, because what we said was so toxic and really truly awful. I go on a rant about a certain mayor of Chicago. I won't name names. No, I'm kidding. But I'm excited to talk about this one. The vibes, I don't know. I love a con men movie. Oh, Paco, we could do this a little bit. Peter, you're actually on for the first in what we are deeming our first miniseries of films that we're talking about con men movies. We're talking about heist movies. And the title is
One Last Score.
I love con men movies. I love heist movies. Just cool guys putting together a score. Things going wrong. People backstabbing each other. These are just movies that have been in the rotation my whole life. And even better, we get to talk about them set in the city that I love, of Joliet, where this movie starts, but Chicago. And there's something very deeply Chicago about this movie. Do you want to dive a little bit into the background of this and talk a little bit about the way that this film came to be?
Sure, yeah. So this was written by David S. Ward, who's just like a storied screenwriter, and then also he directed some random ass movies. I forget what they were. But he just he wrote this script when he was really, really young, and it was partially based off of, I don't know if he read the book first or if he like came up with the idea and then read the book, but there's this book called The Big Con, The Story of the Confidence Man by David Maurer. Maurer is just like a linguistics professor who just like for some other reason, he was just like, he found himself like talking to like a bunch of con men and decided like, oh, this is like kind of like a very like storied enterprise. There's like a big subculture. There's all these like terms and all these like ideas and all these things that they do. And like he wrote this kind of like ethnographic study of con men and listed all of like these important cons, including the thing that they use in they do in the movie. The Wire is one of the first big con games, and it was kind of like this big like revolution in conning, essentially. Like for a long time, con men were just you just kind of con people for like a few bucks here and there. Maybe you occasionally, you got someone poker or like other type situations. And The Wire was the first kind of like con where you like essentially like, it's like a play almost, you construct this incredibly elaborate scenario just to like get someone's money. And then so Ward read this book and came up with this movie and wrote the script, and just like everyone loved the script so much. It ended up eventually with George Roy Hill. They sent it to Robert Redford, but he wasn't interested at first. They asked Jack Nicholson, he said no, and then they went back to Redford. At some point,
Redford forgot that he said no and then said yes.
They hit him with it again. Yeah.
And then they got to it eventually got sent to Newman, and originally the character, what's his name, Gondorff?
Yeah, Gondorff.
Gondorff. Originally, that guy was supposed to be kind of like a fat slob, and then Paul Newman wanted it, and they were like, "All right, I guess we're just changing the character."
He's hot as hell.
I was gonna say, quick rewrite. He is the most beautiful person on earth.
Yeah. Someone's like running on a set with like loose papers. They're like, he's hot.
And I mean, so we talk about how we mentioned that this movie is mostly not filmed in Chicago, but it was a purposeful decision. They were trying to, obviously they weren't trying to make like a realistic like historical movie. George Roy Hill was purposely trying to kind of emulate the movies of the 1930s, and so like that's why it's mostly filmed on sets. And something he mentioned at some point is that like there are almost no extras in like street scenes. And because like that's like how a lot of like these old like Chicago or like movies set in Chicago and other cities like don't have many people in them, you know? So it's kind of like he was trying to make not an actual image of, not an actual representation of the past, but like our idea of the past.
Sure.
And that's why he brought up Scott Joplin, why he introduced the Scott Joplin music, where even though obviously that's not music that would be playing in the 1930s probably, he was like, well, people, when they hear this music, they think of the past. So regardless of like when it's actually taking place, like we're just going to use that music.
But it's kind of deliberately artificial, deliberately kind of sepia toned. That's nice.
But yeah, that's most of the interesting stuff about the movie. So, but to bring it back to David Maurer, the professor, he did sue Warner Brothers because he was like, you guys pretty much just like took my idea.
Oh, they didn't option the book.
No.
They were just like, oh, I read this book and we're gonna do this. Oh, that's awesome.
But like, I guess like their idea was like they made up all the characters. Like the book is like an ethnographic study. It's not like a fiction book, or like it doesn't feature like characters.
Yeah, but credit the guy.
Yeah.
No, right. Yeah, throw the man a bone. Like nobody's asking, you know.
But they ended up settling.
And it does. I mean, you mentioned that it's sort of ethnographic, and that this guy's very taken with the fact that like con men have their own world and their lingo and everything, and that is a huge part of why the movie works. Like you cannot pretend that it's just, you know, that one of the great things about the movie isn't the fact that these guys seem like a community, and they seem like they have their, you know, their in jokes and their terminology and everything like that. So if that's what he's bringing to the picture, you got to credit the guy. You got to throw him a few bucks. I hope the settlement was decent, you know.
Yeah, he was kind of like, I think it was ended up being £300,000.
Hey, that's not bad.
But then Maurer was kind of like bothered by it because it's like they didn't actually admit fault. He was just like, well,
but also like think about how much money the movie made.
That's right. No, that's true.
I mean, that's like the crazy thing about the movie, and just like the thing that like this is an amazing movie. I really like this movie. The fact that it won like Best Picture and made
Best Director.
Yeah.
You know, it was an insane hit. It made how much money in today's money? Like
it made $156 million at the time, which is equivalent to like over $1 billion now.
They were given Endgame money to this movie. They were like, people like this is the movie.
Exactly right. People were lined up around the block, and I think what's really amazing about this movie, it became a phenomenon beyond a phenomenon. It played for, you know, over a year, coming back, just making theaters, helping theaters print money basically at that point. At a time where, like, you know, there was a dip. And then there was another rise again, and this is a movie that people saw, you know, before there's that second market of, you know, time to get it on VHS, time to get it on, you know, you got to go back to the theaters to see your two favorite stars. And this is absolutely a movie I would just pop in the middle of and watch to the end.
Yeah, why not?
So, you know, and then also the Marvin Hamlish Scott Joplin score, right? It became its own hit. It was a you know, a hugely awarded and hugely a huge selling object after the Sting came out, was the Sting score, soundtrack, not score, I'm sorry. But it beyond it being a phenomenon, the things that you're talking about, Paco, the context in which this movie is made, that it's meant to emulate a certain thing. It's bumping up against that new Hollywood thing that we were discussing before, that our parents were raised on, either knowingly or, you know, not knowingly for most of our parents. I would say that there was a few scenes in this movie where those two things are at odds with each other, where it's sort of aping this older style and it's bumping into like, okay, can we actually make this action scene a little bit more like the French Connection? Like when he's jumping off the L tracks at 43rd Street, and then there are extras there, you know? But a lot of the other scenes are very clearly sets, very clearly like Hollywood, older Hollywood style. So it's a very interesting movie at a crux point in Hollywood's history.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. And I think I mean, George Roy Hill's kind of an interesting figure, I think, from a new Hollywood perspective, you know, because previously, you know, he'd gotten Newman and Redford together on previously you have Newman and Redford teaming for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid by George Roy Hill, which is kind of like, you know, in the kind of conventional new Hollywood narrative, Bonnie and Clyde blows the doors open, right?
Mhm.
This is the sort of new kind of European style, you know, violence and sex inflected American popcorn movie, of a new era. And you have Butch Cassidy as kind of like the Bonnie and Clyde that goes down a little easier. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? That it's doing the sort of Bonnie and Clyde stuff, but it's also it's very fun and kind of pop art and digestible. And that's kind of striking. Then you've got this coming out. You've got The Sting coming out and winning all these awards in between the two Godfathers, coming out the same year as The Sting's coming out the same year as Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, for instance. An insanely grim, Sam Peckinpah Western, just amazingly bleak movie. I feel like the George Roy Hill movies are kind of signaling that there was an appetite
Mhm.
for movies that are kind of pushing the envelope in that new Hollywood way, but are also slick, fun studio productions in a way that people recognize.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I saw something. I guess to speak to that, before he started working on The Sting, George Roy Hill was working with Spielberg on Sugarland Express. So
Oh,
who's like the pinnacle of that type of thing of like, yeah, like the new Hollywood, like you get all the cool new Hollywood stuff, but it doesn't make you feel bad, and that's
right. Yeah. Oh, genuinely.
but yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to look up the movies that it be. I guess that year, for Best Picture, American Graffiti, which I guess makes sense. Cries and Whispers, which is an Ingmar Bergman movie, The Exorcist, and A Touch of Glass. So I don't know. I just feel like I know so much about this time period and like Nixon and like the Vietnam War and just like all the shit that's going on and like the fact that like it's like the closest moment to what was going on in the 70s is probably right now. And I just can't imagine everyone like, yeah, let's go see The Sting. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
go ahead, Peter. Sorry.
no, you, Jeremy, do you think?
I was just gonna say that like it makes sense that people are like, I want to think of the past again.
mhm.
I want to retreat into a, but like their version of that is so much better than what we have now, where it's like, yes, it's that with craft and it's that with like the hottest actors, and it is it is speaking to certain things. It's speaking to race and class and all these things. It is tapped in, but it makes sense that like The Exorcist was a little bit too gross, probably, to win Best Picture, although a massive hit, just like The
Yes,
Sting.
huge.
Mhm.
And Cries and Whispers was never going to win Best Picture, but an honor to be there. Get Ingmar Bergman. What was the last one you said? That was the only one I
Yeah.
guess I didn't
A
recognize
Touch of
immediately.
Class. It's like a British movie. Never heard of this in my life.
Yeah, it probably, I don't know, was shot by someone who's like the best. But I think that what you're speaking to, Paco, of it's kind of crazy that this is the movie that was the biggest thing in the world that won Best Picture. That was like the you know consensus smash hit of that year.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also want to point out that George Roy Hill beat out the director of 3 of those movies and then also Bernardo Bertolucci for Last Tango in Paris.
Damn,
Every Oscars year in the 70s is ludicrous. I mean, they all
That's
look like
crazy.
this. You're just like, it's insane. They're all like this.
Yeah. Um,
This and The Exorcist is kind of a great juxtaposition, right? Because I
mhm.
mean, you mentioned the sort of Nixon thing, and it's like, here are your two mega hits, or here are two of your mega hits for the year, and like on the one hand, you have just this incredibly raw and intense piece of kind of trauma about the traditional American family, right?
Mhm.
The sort of the dissolution of the American family home being torn apart by demonic forces, and then you have the sting. That's sort of a kind of escapism and a kind of fantasy about the past, although not all not entirely fantasy. It's as you said, Jeremy, it's a little richer and more complex than that, but it is still, as Paco's been saying, deliberately and avowedly a fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Should we just like go through the plot? Because it's
yeah, let's talk about the plot of The Sting. It's kind of a great movie. I don't know. There's this movie starts with a con right away, right? Or it starts with we're thrust in this like sort of seedy back world of gambling and the absolutely dire world of Joliet, Illinois. I just have to body that. Where there's bets and mob connections, and a racket being drummed up, and they trust some lackey, right, with the money, who has to then go travel to Chicago. Is that what the idea is here with the money?
Yeah. Like
he's making the delivery.
Yeah, of a numbers racket, which I honestly, is it horse betting? I don't really know what a numbers racket is.
It can be a few different kind of things, but like I think in that era it was something like it's like a derivatives market on other betting. Like the numbers racket is like you're kind of paying, you're betting on the outcomes of horse racing, but not directly. It's a weird kind of like pseudo lottery, I think. Gotcha. Is what the original numbers racket is. I'm sure in a situation like this, they intended to mean general, gambling and all such other illegal business.
Yeah. Later in the podcast, Paco will describe exactly how to run a numbers racket for all those listeners out there who want to run their own.
Yeah.
I love the con though that Redford and is it James Earl Jones's dad?
Yeah, Robert Earl Jones.
Robert Earl Jones,
great actor. Run on that lackey. It's really fun. It throws you right in. I was watching this with my girlfriend who had never seen the movie before. And she was like, "Who's conning who?" And I'm like, "Exactly." Like that's the idea here is thrusting you into like a very lo-fi version of what they're gonna run later, and a really fun way to con someone out of a bunch of money.
Yeah. Something the con book mentions is how conning is different from other types of like thievery, because with a con, you're kind of like, you're feeding into someone's like baser instincts. So you make them think that they're part of a con, and really like you're just like conning them in the end, Like you're not like, it's not just like you're like going up to someone and stealing their money, or like, asking like or like crypto in some way. But you're just like you're saying like, hey, like I have this secret thing, like if you help me, then you can also make money in this way. And it ends up being like they kind of like fuck over themselves. And that's
There's a willing participant.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and it's perfect because this is what they pull on this guy Matola, who's supposed to deliver the envelope. They're letting him believe he's stealing from them.
Yeah.
He thinks they gave him their money, and now he's going to make off with it. And that's the feeling you're taking advantage of. So it starts out with a very, very guilt-free heist.
Yeah.
Because this guy's going to rip them off, It's like he thinks he's stealing this guy's money and getting him murdered. He thinks Robert Earl Jones is going to get bumped off because he takes this money, and he doesn't care.
Yeah. And then they all end up kind of getting fucked over because they ended up stealing money from Robert Shaw's character Doyle Lonigan, who was initially supposed to be Polish, but then Robert Shaw.
What did he end up being? Was he Irish, do you think?
He's Irish.
I'm just kidding.
Ish.
Anything about him, give that off.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. He was, what was confusing me the whole time is that there's a character named Shaw and he's not.
Oh yeah.
Yes. No, true.
That was throwing me a little, but that's okay. I got a hang on it eventually. He's he comes in later. He becomes such a force in the movie. And I would say is truly, I mean, not considered one of like the great villains by any means, but is such a good performance. I can't wait to talk about him a little bit, but let's just wrap up what we were talking about with that intro, because Robert Earl Jones gets thrown out of a window because of it. Robert Redford gambles it away, correct?
Yes.
Immediately. Just instantly. They say in one night, Robert Earl Jones is yelling at it. He's like, in one goddamn night? And it's like, no, in like 90 seconds. It's the fastest a man has ever blown his stake.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about that for just a moment. Like, what do we think that this is characterizing for him? Like, I don't think that comes up, that sort of reckless abandon comes up that often for him, unless we're supposed to believe that through the montage, Paul Newman beats this out of him. Because like that is like telegraphed right away, where I was almost certain that I remembered that he does something similar again in the movie, but that's really the only time that character is as reckless as he is, right?
I mean, I think there's him giving the counterfeit money to the cop, and there's just like him like kind of like not telling Gondorf about all the guys who were chasing after him, and sort of the
Although ultimately, do we know if he actually didn't tell him? Since,
yeah, that's true.
Gondorf did kind of take care of that in the end.
Yeah.
So maybe, but you're right. That's what you're supposed to be on tenterhooks about the whole movie, right? Is he successfully keeping these plates spinning, or is his kind of stupidity gonna torpedo the whole enterprise? In the end, I guess it doesn't. So, how reckless is he? But although he does say also in the end that he would totally blow his share of like that. So he at least still thinks himself that he will still do that.
Yeah, it's the money is not the point for him. It's the game and all that. But I just was wondering on rewatch if Redford is a little too smooth, a little too sexy,
A little too old.
A little too old. Like, I don't know. There was something this watch, not that he's not great, because he is, and I love watching him. And I don't think this should have, like, they messed up the casting. But on rewatch, I was like, I wish I could have seen a more vulnerable side of him throughout the movie, because he gets too hot and good at it right off the bat, I guess.
He is kind of too hot, especially. I mean, it's it is a movie where it feels like they went out of their way to cast a lot of interesting and distinctive faces, and some like very sort of normal people faces in key roles. And I think that's great. And then you have like the two most beautiful men on earth, and so it does create a little bit of an incongruity there,
But Newman, I really believe when he plays drunk, and he
world-class drunk acting,
scene is so incredible. What does he say? Sorry, I was late. I was taking a crap.
Right?
It was like the funniest line in the movie.
God damn! I should have opened this Zoom with that. Yeah, I was a little late to this call. I find his acting and his ability to show different sides of himself. I don't know where you align yourselves. I'm more of a Newman fan than I am a Redford fan.
Yes, and that's no disrespect, but that is my situation. Yeah,
I prefer to watch the films of Paul Newman. But I this isn't like, oh, I can't stand Robert Redford or think that this should have been someone else, because I honestly don't think this should have been someone else.
No. Yeah, I think Newman is kind of like is almost like a character actor stuck in the body of a leading man, and that's where like all his power comes from. It's like I think he generally has like a bit more range than Redford, and I think that's why I like him more.
Are you telling me that you think that Paul Newman was a character actor who made a deal with the devil for the most beautiful eyes on the planet?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. But I we're slowly brought into the world of these con men. And Robert Redford gets, deep underwater, and his only way out is to go find Gondorf, this legendary con man, to help him sort of, figure out his situation.
And take revenge, ideally,
yeah.
right? I mean, that's
Right.
he sort of the
Thank
only way to get revenge for what's happened to Robert Earl Jones is to put together a big con, and then he's going to need Gondorf.
Lord of the Rings ass name, by the way.
No, I keep
get that out there.
It didn't distract me while I was watching the movie, but every time I'm saying it, I do feel like I'm about to talk about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, you're right. I wasn't really thinking about it until right now, but saying like Shaw. What's Redford's name again? It's
Hooker.
That's
Hooker.
That's Hooker.
It's Hooker because they do say Hooker a lot.
Yeah, this
But that does make sense in the milieu of the movie we're talking about. Gondorf is a little bit wild.
yeah.
Gondorf, yeah, Henry Gondorf. He doesn't seem like a Gondorf. I mean, he makes it work, but I don't think. Whereas Redford, that's Johnny Hooker. Yeah. That's 100%. That's the man's name.
I've graduated from beer to a gin and tonic.
Nice. Wow.
Just want you
Hell
to
yeah.
know.
How did you do that?
I just made it appear.
That's like
was-
because I didn't see you go anywhere. So something's.
Hey, I have a lot going on underneath here. Paco, it'll all be on the Zoom. You have to edit that sound out, by the way.
You're just like shaking it.
I'm shaking it. See, I there's something very close to con men and magic tricks, so I just pulled a magic trick on you.
Yeah.
You did some close-up magic. Yeah, we
was
were
some
looking
close-up
right
magic.
at you, and we had no idea.
There's a lot of con men movies that come to mind when you're watching this. Like, are there any that you guys were thinking about when this movie was playing for you that you were like, oh God, this reminds me of this movie or that movie, or was it like? There's not really a movie that's like The Sting, so.
No, I always sort of wish there is. It feels like this kind of. I mean, there are other heist movies. There are other movies about con artists. There are other movies where the con artists are attractive and likable. There's all of these things. But this has that combination. I mean, everything that we set up top, the combination of sort of the ethnographic sense of the con artist's world, the kind of snatches of grimy Chicago streets, but for the most part, this kind of Hollywood artifice of presentation and the score and everything. Yeah, there's not much like The Sting to me.
There's The Sting 2, which I haven't seen, but
I actually meant to watch it for this podcast and have that card to play, and I completely didn't do it.
I watched it. I watched it for the
how
last
was
time.
it?
I watched it for the last time we recorded, so I didn't rewatch it for this. It is awful. Like, it is so bad. It is like really cheap looking. They recast the roles with worse actors. It is like it's not without its charms. Like, I think watching it right after The Sting is the worst thing you could do for it. And instead, if you watched it in conjunction with like a bunch of other con movies or something, it might like raise a little bit in my estimation. But watching it after The Sting, I was like, get this off the screen. This is embarrassing.
all right.
Yeah, it does feel like if you I mean, I'm just looking at the cast, and like the cast is incredible in its in isolation. If you're not looking for Newman and Redford, you're like, wow, we got Terry Garr and Carl Malden and Oliver Reed. Must be a very young Ron Rifkin here.
Great actors. Great actors.
These are some great people.
But also people, not the great Terry Garr, but some people, Oliver Reed especially, who phoned it in a few times.
Oh no! What no?
Who phoned it in
Sir,
once or
how could
twice.
you- Oliver Reed? No.
Yeah, I think he
Great actor. I mean, let's just say
The
but
best.
Like,
We love
yes,
Oliver Reed.
Amazing. Yes, but occasionally cashed a check.
He cashed a few, and I would say, he recorded some in his waking life and in his stupors as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if The Sting, if he doesn't remember, making The Sting 2. But I'm happy you brought it up because I don't have much to say about it, Paco, other than the fact that when we recorded this originally, it completely failed to be any sort of entertainment. So I was going to say don't go watch it, but if you're interested, Peter, if you're like, I guess I want to check a box off.
But almost. It's gonna happen at some point. I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah. That's the cinephile brain. You gotta
right. Like, damn it.
just remember that there is like 5 more movies that were made that same day
Yeah.
as the Sting 2 that probably are worth more.
Are way better. Almost certainly way better.
Yeah.
I was doing some basic research into like things that the I love going on the Wikipedia pages for cinematographers,
Mhm.
Yes.
and
Cinematographers have the most chaotic careers. It's so good.
it's amazing because they just splinter. It's not like actors who rise and fall, and
Yes.
it's like these great cinematographers who were like raised and did B pictures their whole career and like trained under the best cinematographers and then made bangers in the 70s and then made the looniest shit in the 80s and the 90s, like
Yep.
action movies and blockbusters. And it's like you have these people behind
TV
the
pilots
lens,
for completely forgotten shows. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
just
Yep.
yeah.
chaotic and wonderful, and just I really love digging into those. And the cinematographer of The Sting had some really fun stuff. Robert Surtees is his name. He shot like Last Picture Show and The Graduate,
Uh-huh.
but he also shot like Ben-Hur and Oklahoma. Like he had a crazy career.
Dr.
That
Doolittle.
is Yeah,
He also did
that's
Doolittle.
completely wild. I think my favorite of these of all time is Vilmos Zsigmond, the great cinematographer who worked. I mean, he shot McCabe and Mrs. Miller. He shot Close Encounters. He also shot at least one entire season of the Mindy Project. Like, this is the DP career. This is the cinematographer's career in a nutshell. Is like, yes, the Deer Hunter and also the Mindy Project. The multitudes contained by these men.
And Paco, you were struggling to come up with the movies of David S. Ward earlier. It is Major League that you were thinking
Yes.
of, by the way.
yes.
And Major League 2. And then he also did like
Very fun movies.
Yeah, he did King Ralph and Down Periscope. He just did comedies. Like
Yeah.
he became the comedy guy after The Sting. So.
Oh, he wrote Sleepless in Seattle. You think
he-
it's like not?
That is like he wrote a version of it that she took. And,
Okay.
yeah, that's a God, what's her name?
That's an Efron joint.
Yeah.
An
That's
Efron.
a straight.
There's only one person who can provide that for you.
Mm-hmm.
So David S. Ward, where were we at? I'm going back up the pyramid I got myself caught down into.
Other con movies, and one I thought of as we were talking about The Sting 2, that really now in retrospect reminds me a lot of this movie, Nine Queens, the Argentinian
Yes.
movie.
You ever seen that, Peter? Nine Queens?
No. Is that a good
Nueve
one?
Reinas?
Very good.
Fantastic. Paco and I think were shown it in high school, I want to say.
Yeah, I think so.
We went to high school together and in a Spanish class. We watched that movie. But then I watched it again recently because I had a project for every birthday. I was trying to watch a movie with like the number of the year that I turned.
That's
So
fun.
I did, 28 Days Later. And then for my 29th birthday, I did Nine Queens.
Nice.
Sorry.
Nice.
And it's an Argentinian film about street thieves, con men. Very fun movie. Kind of seems like one of those movies Hollywood. Oh wait, we found this out when we talked about this. Hollywood did make a remake of it
Yes.
with John C. Reilly that went nowhere.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But like in that era where they would be like, "Wow, this is such a great foreign film. We're making a Hollywood movie."
Yeah. And like completely
Yeah.
dropping all the context that makes the movie good. Like the movie is like it's Argentinian, and it's like it was filmed during the the late 90s early 2000s financial crisis, and it like really has a lot to do with that. And there's like it kind of like predicts some of like the bank runs that would happen later in like a year later after the movie came out. And I'm sure
Very
the American
interesting.
movie has a lot to say about that.
No,
Oh, of course, yeah.
completely disconnected. But I thought about Nine Queens. I thought about a lot of other con movies. We played The Grifters, which is like a noir that's
Yeah, absolutely.
Stephen Frears movie. We played that at the Music Box last year for Noir City. There's just like a lot of really fun. There's a great tradition of the con men movie.
Yeah, I mean, just because we've got Redford, I certainly think of Sneakers sometimes while watching this. That's another fun one.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I've never seen Sneakers.
Oh, it's fun. Very
Fun.
good cast. Very good. Yeah, a lot of good stuff in that one. That's sorry. Go ahead, Paco.
I was just gonna say, I feel like this movie sort of reminded me of like F for Fake, the Orson Welles movie. Just like kind of the kind of like the magic trick aspect of the movie. Where obviously like this time around, I know everything that's gonna. There's one twist that I did not remember, but almost every other twist I remember.
In this movie?
There's almost
Sting,
Which
yeah.
twist was that?
I
That the woman is actually an assassin?
Yes,
when
that's a good one.
that was just the one where I was like, I had no memory of that happening.
Well, that's she. So she's really, that's a fascinating working method.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh yeah, put Celino on the case. She's going to get a job at his local diner for several days, possibly weeks, and get a sense of, which special he orders and things of this kind, and then eventually she'll move in, That's
Yeah, exactly. Sleep with him.
Right,
You're gonna sleep
right.
with the hottest guy, and then the next day, right before his big moment, you're gonna walk down the street and then shoot him.
Yeah.
And like the excuse, like he was like, "Why didn't she kill me when we were sleeping together?" And he's like, "Too many people saw
You come
So
in.
you got to
him
do
going into her."
you got to do it in the middle of the street. That's
Yeah.
you got to be very secretive about it and do it in broad daylight.
And
and
Paco, that's where like the thing that you're talking about with like the sets and like the artifice of it. I'm like, there was no one on that street.
Yeah.
no one.
It was an
no,
empty alley.
It was an alley, yeah. Yeah, also like it's not like she was particularly like flirty with him. Like he was doing all of it. Like when they
right.
were
No, she gave no indication that there was there's no honeypot scenario here. Like he was
No.
really she suggested his advances were unwanted. That
Yeah.
was not,
And she's incredibly beautiful, but she's also very much so coded as a regular person.
exactly.
And
100%.
so it is really, and that's what Redford, his name is Hooker. That's what Hooker says, that he is, I just haven't met like a normal woman in a while. And it's just so interesting that they decide that is going to be, it's sort of a little silly, but in an interesting way. It doesn't take me out of it, but
No, it's a nice touch because this is the assassin that's been built up as like the
Mhm.
most formidable, that they've had the kind of two just goons who break legs on him for the whole movie, and those guys have proven unsuited to the task, and so now you've got Robert Shaw's character who's going to come in and say, you know what, give it to Celino because it's we need the big gun here, and you think so, you get this kind of off-screen. She brutally guns down one of the guys that was originally set to kill him because he's hoarding in on her job. She's been given the assignment and he's not allowed anymore.
that POV sort of murder where you're like, who's doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a nice reveal that it's this waitress, it's like
Yeah.
that is not where your head's at. I mean, I can't remember finding this out for the first time, but Paco, you just did, right?
Yeah.
You're telling me you actually got to experience that again as though for the first time.
Yeah, it
It
was.
must have been fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Because every other twist, I pretty much remembered it. And I was watching with my wife who had never seen it before. And so she kept asking me questions. And I was like, I can't answer any way that won't like reveal everything that happens.
There's no
Like
way
she was
I
like,
can
is
tell
he
you
really
this,
going to
yeah.
like betray him to the FBI? Like, oh no. And it's like,
Yeah.
I just can't.
Exactly. There's so much more to talk about with this movie, and I want to be respectful. You have an out, Peter. So I just want to get to this. There's this whole section of the movie in the train car, which I think is my favorite section of the movie.
It's perfect.
Where this is where the movie's firing on all cylinders for me. It's just perfect. We get this training montage of Redford learning, and then they end up in Lonergan's. They end up on a train with Lonergan, and they have to basically run a very quick con to set up the fact that Lonergan hates Gondorf, right?
Just fucking can't stand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is their oil and vinegar. Newman knows exactly how to play him. I love the detail of like always drink gin with a mark because they can't tell the difference if you've cut it.
Right.
Like just
Perfect.
Such a anyway. I'm going to take a sip of my gin.
Or is
Which
it?
could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know. I pulled it out of anywhere. But that whole sequence is just such fun filmmaking. I think George Roy Hill is not really a director we think of when it comes to like overt style, but he's so good at shooting actors, shooting faces, having quiet moments in scenes. I know like the music is so famous in this movie, but so much of this movie plays out over silence and over, you could hear characters breathing, and it really adds a touch to these scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've already mentioned, but it's during that sequence that we get Paul Newman doing some of the best drunk acting of all time.
Yeah.
Just becoming just really embodying this character within a character of just the complete horse's ass. Just a guy that like no one's gonna be able to stand.
I think like it's so hard to portray drunk acting on screen, right? But it's even harder to portray the act of portraying drunkenness. It's such a fine line, and he walks it so well, and he changes on a dime, and he has to also make it clear to Lonergan that like only afterwards can Lonergan think, oh, he was conning me. That's important to plant that. Like that this was all a ruse. So,
Because
by the
Kelly Hooker's going to bring it up, right?
Yeah.
Hooker's going to say he was swindling you.
And he needs, and also the fact that the other guy, his goon, Lonergan's goon is like, I thought I cheated, boys. Like,
he must have stacked the deck too.
He must have stacked the deck. It's like I thought I had the trees on him, and it's just really fun stuff happening there. And he's like, well, we could out him, and he's like, well, what are we gonna do? Say that he cheated better than we did?
Yeah.
All those lines are just so special.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a really amazing section, and you've got the recurring bit where he gets Lonergan's name wrong every time. He's like, he calls him Linneman and Linehan, and like just anything else he can think. It's different every time.
Disrespectful.
It's so
good.
Just deeply disrespectful.
Oh,
Yeah.
good stuff.
That guy, what's his name? I think it's Charles Deercop. He's got a crazy face. And then,
Yes, very, very interesting face.
And I looked it up, and it's he broke his nose 4 times as a kid, which is
wow.
Getting into scraps?
Yeah, probably. I think so.
Yeah, he's got that really aggressively flattened nose.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like it's intense.
Yeah.
I love seeing faces. Peter, you mentioned this before. I think that really what Hollywood period pieces lose these days is that, like, I know it's kind of hack to say this, but like the face that everyone knows what an iPhone looks like. This is a face that could not tell you what a microwave is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he truly is from that era, or straight out of the comic books from that era, right? Like the type of crime goon that are peppered throughout Hollywood's history.
Yeah, and the character actors in this movie contribute so much. Like, good typecasting goes such a long way in this movie. Charles Durning, you spend 6 seconds with Charles Durning's character, the sort of corrupt, bunco lieutenant, and you immediately get his whole deal. He's he's a blustering fool who thinks he's smarter than all the con men, and Charles Durning visually, you get it right away. He's really good in the role, but it's also just a very deft piece of typecasting to just kind of drop this guy in and be like, you get this guy's deal. This is, you understand what kind of guy this is. A time also when a little healthy contempt for a police officer was well within the rules of of Hollywood filmmaking. You could really make him look like the complete just oaf moron of the whole piece, and
he's
no
great
one can tell
at
you
being
different.
That's very true. I mean, I think we're gonna be hitting a corridor here with these heist pictures set in Chicago, between this movie and Thief. And honestly, another movie
movie.
we'll be talking about soon, called Normal Life, right, Paco?
Yeah.
Paco and I were talking about this earlier. Yeah. So,
That's a very strange movie, that I ended up really enjoying, and I recommend that people watch before we do that episode, because it's not a perfect movie by any means. I don't want to just be like, oh, hidden masterpiece, because it's not, but it's such an interesting movie, what it's saying about the suburbs and policing and all these things. So um, I think Chicago lends itself to talking about crooked police officers
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
and the history of, who the real con men are, who the real criminals are. So Hollywood has played in that space for so long, but we discovered through doing noir, like covering some of the noir movies, that like these films were produced in conjunction with the Chicago Police Department. So you can't go too far, and there has to be a big thing at the end that says like our heroes in the force.
Right.
This movie's not ending with our heroes in the force,
No.
and it's that much more enjoyable to rewatch now.
Yeah, definitely.
Because Schneider is great from the perspective of the movie and from the perspective of the characters, because they end up running an entire secondary con just for Snyder, right? Like that's they set up this whole FBI. It's so great because by the end, these guys are not really in it for the money, because they are splitting this pot like 36 ways, right? At minimum. They got a whole, because they run a whole FBI con just so Snyder, first of all, to get Snyder off of of Hooker's back by making him think that he's part of this FBI operation, but then also to bring Snyder in at the end, because he's got to get Lonergan out of the room, right? He's like complicit in the. It's just like you were saying at the beginning, Paco. Like, this is how it works, right? You make the mark help you with the con. You make the mark, believe that they're taking part in some enterprise, and Snyder's now going to be brought in on that kind of conspiracy too, which is so funny, such a funny move.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this movie in some ways is kind of like not like simple. It's actually really convoluted and complicated. But it's like it feels pretty straightforward. But there's like something I noticed. I think the last time we watched it, and now that just anytime I think about it, it just oftentimes when we talk about I mean like culturally talk about heist movies, sometimes like they get compared to like the act of filmmaking itself. And this movie really feels like that, where it really feels
Yes.
like a big part of the con is making the person feel like they're the main character in a movie, that they're going to succeed, And like, and I mean, even down to like the fact that they're just like, they're literally building sets. Like they're literally
Yeah.
like building environments for people to like play around in and feel like they're the main character.
The con men are saying, here's the character that I can do, and being told to pick out a costume. They're auditioning. They're like, these guys coming in and saying, look at the accent that I can do. This will be the character that I play in the con. I mean, yeah, it's so very much about filmmaking, or relate. At least you can certainly make that connection very strongly.
Yeah. And then I mean also like the final twist. I mean, the final twists, several, are kind of like the audience itself is also being conned to a certain extent, which I guess is like that's kind of like what filmmaking is. It's like you're letting yourself believe in whatever like the magic of the story is. But in this case, it's like really like they kind of. I mean, often I feel like a lot of heist movies will do that, where they'll do kind of like a little trick on you, and like you're always like missing some. Like I feel like the Ocean's movie always do this. You're always like missing like 7 steps that they didn't tell you that they were doing. And this movie doesn't feel like cheap like that, but it definitely just does it. It does the magic of that, watching it the first time. Like I really want to relive that, where you just like have no idea what's going to happen. Like it's such a good feeling.
I've watched this movie with several people who, more than once, I've watched this movie with new people who, when it gets to the point that gunfire is being exchanged in that final scene, are horrified. They're like, "Oh my God, I was watching this fun movie, like where about these good-looking guys pulling off a fun heist, and now everybody's dead.
Yeah.
This is crazy, And then once it's revealed, you feel sort of silly. You're like, why would I ever have assumed that was legit? But for a second, you're
Yeah.
like, man, I guess this is New Hollywood. Damn, they really, they really went for it.
Yeah. I mean, Butch Cassidy kind of has like that ending where like they just go off into like they're not going to live, so they go off into that final gunfight.
150 soldiers shooting at them.
Yeah.
Just absolute volleys of absolutely.
We one of the first films that we played here, Peter as the new GM of the Heights Theater here in Minneapolis, was Butch Cassidy on 35, and I just was marveling at how bizarre that movie is. It's fantastic and great, but it's really weird. Like it's really an odd tone of a movie, and it's never, I love it so much. It was great to watch that on 35 again.
Really fun one.
Fun movie, and again, just like the hottest, best movie stars on the planet. Like, we need to go back.
Yeah.
What happened? Yeah.
Exactly. What did we lose here? Would you watch a Hollywood now doing a remake of The Sting?
Oh God.
Who would be in that? Who are our two stars now?
I mean, you are, I think, contractually obliged to cast Jacob Elordi now. That appears to be a kind of a studio rider in the.
Is he Gondorf or is he Hooker? You know what I mean?
Hooker. I think
he's Hooker.
I think he's Hooker.
Yeah, you need like an older guy. I don't know.
And then who plays Gondorf?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oscar Isaac.
That'd be really serious.
this is not the craziest suggestion you've ever had. Like I could see this happening.
It's just Frankenstein.
Yeah, just Frankenstein again.
I didn't see Frankenstein. I've just opted out of having an opinion on it. I've amongst film people, I feel like Guillermo del Toro's lost some respect. Wouldn't you say?
I think that's right. Yeah,
and I think
he's a little bit. His reputation among film buffs is lower than it once was.
Or like maybe it's just film Twitter, but it's like,
No, right.
Because he's also one of the most lauded.
No, it is.
Directors.
Yeah, you're like, but listen, among 600 guys that look mostly like me, there's been a real turn in his fortunes.
Yeah, he's really ruining the day.
He's cooked among
But I deeply love and appreciate the works of Guillermo del Toro. Personally, he was very important to my film upbringing and was sort of a gateway drug to films for me. So I haven't allowed myself to go there with him. And even though I find some of his movies a bit, languorous and bloated, as I believe I said to someone recently, I find so much joy in his movies. So I can't see myself hurting myself by watching something like a Netflix production of Frankenstein. I think I'll just opt out.
Just not something that you're going to be
able
to do. Yeah.
Coming soon, according to the news today, coming soon to the Criterion Channel.
That's right. To the Criterion Collection. Yeah, they're going to get the.
That's the news today. That and K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes, which was a night, again, normally Del Toro's Frankenstein entering the connection might have been the occasion for 600 guys on Twitter that look mostly like me to entertain another round of sort of light bashing, but K-pop Demon Hunters really sucked the oxygen out of the Frankenstein discourse for the day. Everyone
was very like, woe is me, this is the end about it. But we all agree on online discourse, we can only be into poptimism 20 years later. It can't happen in the moment. It's got to be reclaimed. God forbid someone like Park.
Rules. We have a system here. Yeah.
Park Chan-wook, I think, said K-pop Demon Hunters was one of his favorite movies of the year. So who are we to say?
Yeah. Well,
that's director Park there.
Yeah. That's director Park. Yeah.
That's director Park. I found that we're way off on a tangent at this point.
Just-
How to dig myself out of this hole? I
Park Chan-wook could be a pretty good Sting remaker.
Okay, this is the connection to Park Chan-wook. Do you know that George Roy Hill made a remake or made the first adaptation of Little Drummer Girl?
That's right, of Little
Oh,
Drummer
yeah.
Girl, which Park did then just do.
I am very tempted to watch a
Diane
a
Keaton.
1970s Little Drummer Girl, although I am a little it's kind of a
Frightened of it.
crazy time to be talking about
It's-
but I found Park's Little Drummer Girl to be fascinating and quite brilliant.
The Le Carre novel is really quite good, and for a subject that's as obviously volatile as that right now, it's you know, less mortifying than you'd think it'd be. You know, for lack of a better way to say it,
Right.
it's you know, it goes down better than you'd expect given the era and subject matter.
Yeah.
Definitely. I am curious. I'm also curious about what the 80s version of that looks like.
That's got to. I only found out about that when Diane Keaton died. Actually,
Mhm.
learned that this movie existed, and was kind of baffled that it hadn't been ever brought up to me, and then kind of immediately figured out why that probably was. Like that's. I was like, actually, you know what? I was like, why have I not heard of this? And then I sort of thought about it for a second
Yeah.
and figured it out.
I'm sure there's someone out there who says it's actually really good.
Oh no way, no way is there not somebody who shoots for that 100%. Maybe it'll be me. Like who
Yeah.
knows? You know, I might watch this and I could
Yes.
become that person.
I guess speaking of George Roy Hill, I watched his I wanted to watch one of his movies before rewatching The Sting, and I watched his Slaughterhouse 5, and it was pretty good. It was decent.
That's another one that doesn't feel like it gets talked about as much as it as it should for a adaptation of a big big title.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it, I do feel like maybe I'm just thinking about it from like a literary perspective. I feel like Kurt Vonnegut's cachet has kind of been down the past like decade or so, and I feel like no one's gonna. I don't know if anyone is like reaching out to go talk about Vonnegut and go see this movie.
Why is Vonnegut on the logs or something?
No,
No, I don't think so. It's just
I think
we're in a
yeah,
down period for Vonnegut, I guess.
yeah.
Why is it? Why do you think that is?
I think it's just he can feel sometimes like my first writer or my first like adult novel.
Yeah, but
type
do you know what
guy.
happens sometimes with those people? You
Like, they're
reread them and
good.
you're like,
Yeah.
fuck, they're so good.
Yeah.
You're like, I was actually right.
Yeah, yeah.
15-year-old me was really on
Yeah.
it with that one.
Yeah.
Actually, that's
So like I think that's like a big part of it. It's like people like read his novels when they're teenagers and they're like, wow, this is so cool and postmodern, and then they grow up and they're like, oh, that was a little bit corny and blah blah blah. My thing with Slaughterhouse 5 is I generally like Vonnegut, but in recent years I've discovered that some of the like factual things that he claims in that book are based off the crux of the novel and the movie, because they hadn't really figured this out when the movie came out, is that the Dresden bombing was this like, I mean, the Dresden bombing was like pretty fucked up, but like based on this claim that the Dresden bombing killed like over 100,000 people, and that was initially a claim made by David Irving, who is like a Holocaust denier and
infamous
neo-Nazi.
Holocaust denier. Yeah. Like,
And so Vonnegut read Irving's book on Dresden and was like, oh, like this fits to my memory of what happened, and that's kind of like where like I think the book and the movie feel a little bit like all the crimes that happened during the war were the same, and I think it doesn't go down super well.
Was Irving known? Was Irving known as a Holocaust denier yet, or was his Dresden book the sort of soft open for the right? Like, is it that kind of? Okay,
It was
okay,
like
that's
It
interesting.
was like he like steadily built it up over like several books. So like that was like kind of like in the moment, everyone's like, wow, this is incredible new scholarship on Dresden. Like no one thought about it like this before. And then
He was
turns
just
out-
asking questions at that point.
Yeah, literally, he was
right,
just asking questions.
quite literally just asking questions. Yeah.
And then by his next book, he was like, maybe Hitler didn't know about this stuff.
Next book, maybe it didn't happen. Like, it's just kind of building out the scaffolding.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't think that's Slaughterhouse 5's fault for that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't
no,
put
but
the
it may
weight
have.
of Holocaust denial on that, but I understand what you mean in terms of rereading or understanding. he has like 18 other books that I think are better than Slaughterhouse-Five. Slaughterhouse-Five is the one they make you read in high school.
Right. It is. Yeah, absolutely.
I just find his books funny, and I don't think they have to be, the heaviest literary works. He's just a charming humorist most of the time, and he likes drawing buttholes.
Yeah.
So I like that because I'm a dumb idiot. But
So, I mean, here we are. Like,
Yeah.
it's
great.
Unfortunately, no buttholes in the movie.
In The Sting?
No, in the Slaughterhouse-Five movie.
Oh,
no
in the
buttholes.
Slaughterhouse-Five movie. There's 0 buttholes.
Yeah.
I think that's probably for the best. I am interested in I haven't rewatched The World According to Garp, but I remember really liking that when I watched that in college. There's some George Roy Hills that I still haven't checked off. What's the other Redford one that's like the flying one? You know what I'm talking about? There's like a
Oh yeah.
George Roy Hill loved flying. He loved I think that's like one of the main signatures of his work is it's weird that The Sting actually has 0 flying scenes.
Does not manage to get any flying in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the is that the Great Waldo Pepper?
The Great
Yes.
Waldo Pepper. Thank you, Peter. I really want to check that one out. That was, I think, a bomb, but I think a movie that some people have reappraised to some extent.
Well, and then there's Slapshot. I mean, which I also saw as a kid and did not know that the director of Slapshot was also the director of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid until much later, and found that a kind of mind-blowing revelation. You know, it kind of makes sense, but
did he go out on a Chevy Chase? Am I right about that?
Yes, Funny Farm. That was his
Funny
last
Farm is his
movie.
final. Yeah, Chevy Chase killed him, or did he
Yes.
die 30 years later?
You know,
Is
he
that
died like that was like his last movie. I wonder if Chevy Chase just killed his career. Like he was just like, I'm done with this. I can't deal with it.
he's like, all right, man, I worked with Newman. I should not have to work with the Chevy Chases of the world. This is
Yeah.
I used to work with nice men.
Yeah.
We're clamoring for. It looks like he died way later.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was fine.
He was totally fine. I just want to say this. I feel like we are clamoring for every director to make another movie. Like, make your final work. A lot of the times, it's better to just have like, instead of having him make like 4 shitty movies in the 90s and 2000s, it's like he could just hang it up and relax and be a rich guy and, like have his model airplanes. He doesn't need to
blame
make.
him if that's what he chooses. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Better than just, unless he really has something to say, which then by all means give directors money, give Elaine May money, give John Waters money. God damn it.
my God.
But-
if people can't get that Elaine May movie made, I'm gonna be livid. The last I heard, they're still looking for an insurance, like a shadow director for insurance, right?
And
that's what I heard.
The best
It's
thing
like
is
somebody
that she
lock in
famously
here.
is, someone just who fucking cares?
Genuinely, like
Let her waste your money. It's Elaine May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
I wonder if the issue is that there's just like not really any comedy directors who would be able to pick it up, God forbid, if something happens,
No, right. Like you wouldn't think that there would be too many people qualified for it.
No, it would be like Judd Apatow who would have to pick up the pieces or some bullshit.
Yeah, and just make it 17 hours long. And just-
Yeah.
Just a really shaggy middle section.
Yeah.
Sort of like-
Peter, do you have any final thoughts on this film?
This is a movie I love, and I think it's one, like we've been saying, that's got really interesting kind of contradictions. That it is trying to do that new Hollywood thing where there's a little bit of violence, and Lonergan runs a remarkably brutal operation, and there's some dealing with racism, but it's largely is that kind of enjoyable fantasy. It really allows you, I think, to inhabit the world of these con artists pretty fully. There's almost no one else in it. I mean, who in this movie is an out and out civilian? Is there anybody? Luther's family, they're all also right.
Yeah.
He married a fellow con artist, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, you were gonna say Paco. Who we got?
Yeah, I was gonna say the closest is Luther's wife, who was formerly a con artist. Like,
Right. You assume his children are not like that. But
Yeah.
but like otherwise,
Anyone with a
we pretty
name.
much- Yeah. No.
Mhm.
Right. Any named character is either one of the con artists part of Lonigan's gang or like Snyder, right?
Yeah.
This is it. Nobody's
Yep.
just there
Law
almost
enforcement.
literally isn't anybody. I guess, um Robert Redford's date from the vaudeville show, from the that they she he
Oh
picks
yeah.
That's a good point.
his girlfriend up at the theater, but it's still kind of it's presented as a fairly seedy enterprise
Yep.
where con men are at least going to hang out. The respectable world really features in this movie almost not at all, right? There's like no time spent in the sort of in the American mainstream. And I think one of the things that's really great about the movie is that it makes no bones about depicting its underworld as completely fun and nice. Like
Mhm.
it really is sort of like, yeah, you are in the world of these con men completely, and you know what? It is cool and they rock. And everybody that they're conning is either a dirty cop who sucks or a murderer. And this is the world. This is the world of the movie, and it's a really fun place to spend some time, I think.
Yeah. I do wonder, now that you say that, I guess I was talking earlier about how this movie feels so unlike what was going on at the time that it came out. But actually, like a world run completely by like con men and murderers sounds actually pretty similar to the 1970s.
Sure. Right.
Yep.
That's are we presenting Shaw's Lonergan as sort of a Nixonian figure?
Yeah.
Is this how we're gonna make this happen?
Yeah.
He's
and-
too polite.
Yeah.
Yes, much too polite. No, just no constant battery of slurs behind
Yeah.
closed doors.
We didn't really talk about him. I'm just gonna make this final point. His performance, Shaw's performance in this is so different than his performance in Jaws, and that's the thing I think most
Yes.
people know him from,
Yep.
right? And
Absolutely.
his performance in this is so buttoned up and like a a tea kettle that's about to go off.
Yes.
And he's just this like very slow burn of rage that is a little scary, but in a very different way that he's scary in Jaws. And it truly is such a brilliant performance that I think should be talked about more.
Mhm.
Yes, absolutely. You completely believe him as a guy who has like fashioned this character, because he's supposed to be from this sort of hard scrabble, 5 points New York background, and now wants to kind of present himself as a gentleman, and he's
Mhm.
playing, oh, this is a gentleman's game. It's sort of, he wants to have that kind of polished.
We wear a tie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. We can provide one for you if you don't have. It's all very like, but the rage, he can't really help it. He's so full of rage, and so um prone to acting on his resentments that and this is what the con guys are banking on, right? This
Mhm.
is like that he is, yes, he is smart and he does have a sort of sense of refinement, but he's also capable of just jumping on a chance to make some cheap money and feel like a big man, and Robert Shaw gives you all of that. I mean, all of it, right?
Yeah.
It's such a good performance. You're right. I love him. I think he's fantastic.
All right, Peter. As we asked you before the podcast, we were wondering, do you, as we ask all our guests, do you have a favorite Chicago restaurant that you would like to recommend?
Hate to I cannot give a favorite. I can't give that would just be sort of choosing among my children. But in my area where I eat very frequently, and actually, Jeremy, an Irving Park head from back in the day, will also know. I'm a huge fan of the Roost. The Roost is so good to me, and it's kind of near and dear to my heart because the only sustained period during which I lived outside Chicago, I lived in North Carolina. I went to UNC for grad school, and the sort of the chicken biscuit or biscuit sandwich is a kind of a Chapel Hill area specialty, and that's where the Roost's roots are. Like that is, that they're sort of founded by people from around there who know the sandwiches that I ate way too many of in graduate school. So like coming back to Chicago and finding that I could do this locally and do it right was a thing of great beauty to me. So shout out to the Roost.
That's a great pick. I feel like I was, if I wanted chicken twice in a week, it would be once at the Roost, once at Popeyes, right there on the same
Right there,
same
yep, that's
stretch.
Well,
That
That
Go ahead,
roost
Paco.
closed actually. The one in Irving.
Oh, it did close.
Yeah, now it's the one
Rest
I
in
really
peace.
know is the Roscoe Village one
Mhm.
that's on Roscoe, I think. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then there's also I think there's a Lincoln Park one, right?
Yeah,
Damn.
something like
They're destroying landmarks.
that.
Yeah.
Peter, is there anything else you want to plug here while we have some listeners where they can find some of your work?
Well, I'm on Twitter way too much. It's I'm at PeterRaleigh on Twitter. Don't ask why. Same thing on Blue Sky. But both places I spend too much time. But if my writing, most of my long form film writing is at my Substack Long Library, and people can certainly check that out if they have a mind.
Peter is really one of the great film minds in Chicago. You should follow the Substack, follow the Twitter, or get off Twitter and get on Blue Sky. Whatever, do what you want to do.
These are your options. Yeah.
These are your options. There's great film writing out there for the inquiring minds. Thank you, Peter, for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, fellas, so much. Had a great time.
Are you gonna get into Scott Joplin now?
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna put it under any time we're talking about the plot of this movie. Maybe I should just really low during the entire episode. Just-
During the I actually think that would be unlistenable.
yeah, I think.
It's also not what this movie does. This movie has a lot of silence.
Yes, it's. I was surprised there were moments of it. I think Peter brought it up there, or you brought it up. There were moments. In my head, the theme runs throughout the entire movie, and then actually watching it, it was.
It's less than you'd think,
Yes.
but it's fun and it's a great little ditty. Anything else about this movie you want to chat about? I want to talk a little bit about the Chicago connections. There's a few scenes where I thought that they really did their research. That even if it's not filmed in the city, there's references to the city that felt very real and very Chicago.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I have is, I guess, Chicago's favorite film critic, Roger Ebert. Let me actually check how many stars.
Chicago's favorite critic is Jonathan Rosenbaum. Paco.
Well, Roger Ebert gave it 4 out of 4 stars. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. We should have had him on the pod.
Is he available?
I hope
He might be on.
Yeah.
He might be on Normal Life.
Yeah. And he was been pretty young when he reviewed this. But something I want to point out, just something that's really a really interesting way of describing this movie. He described it as, it almost reminds me of Jacques Tati crossed with Robert Altman, which is like that's like
Those are two things I like.
Yeah, that's like classic Roger Ebert, like big brain. Like, okay, no one else could have thought that. I kind of
First of all, like, okay, go ahead.
I kind of get
What-
what he's talking about. Like,
How?
just there's like the Jacques Tati like super constructed kind of like Playmobil aspect of like
Right.
the filmmaking,
Moving characters around
Yeah,
a set. Mm-hmm.
and then there's like all this like hangout stuff. You know, like there's all this like hanging out and kind of like
A complicated web of secondary, tertiary characters.
yeah, like so many like little storylines and like so many like there's so many like crowd scenes and stuff.
Okay. I wouldn't say that that's what this movie is
Yeah.
personally. But yeah, that's an interesting take, Roger. This is a movie that I think recreates the city in a very interesting way.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to find this a lot with period pieces that recreating the city is really hard when it became such a modern city so fast.
Yeah, definitely.
And most period pieces are not filmed here. For that reason, they film in Indiana or Joliet or somewhere busted.
Yeah.
Jeez. And I feel like to recreate a 1920s, 1930s Chicago feel, where you need a little bit of the modernity, and the new millennia. But there is also some scenes where it's very clearly just Chicago and they filmed it quickly.
Mm-hmm.
There's one scene where he's being chased around that especially felt like they didn't even bother to like demodernize.
Mm-hmm.
What's the word for the opposite of modernization?
I mean, you would call it like an anachronistic. Like it's
Well, it felt very anachronistic when
Yeah.
when Redford's jumping through the scene and there looks like there's possible graffiti on the wall or whatever,
Yeah.
or like some posters that feel wrong. But that's okay. I don't mind that stuff. I think that's every period piece. I've said this before on the podcast, and I mean it. That every period piece is reflective of the time in which it's made.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the connections that you and Peter made to the Nixon administration and other world events going on at the same time, because I do think it says more about 1973 than it does about 1934, 6.
Yeah.
So, I am not a stickler for detail unless you're really going to go for it,
Mm-hmm.
and just like whole hog make, shoot on the same stock. And even that stuff feels a little bit like when, what's his name? Eggers does it.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a little bit like, I don't mind it and I like to see it, but I'm also, how much staying power does that have?
Yeah, I think it depends on what
it feels a little
going for.
pastiche-y.
Yeah, it depends on what you're going for. I mean, this movie is much more pastiche than Robert Eggers' movie, but
It's going for pastiche though.
yeah.
It's aiming to be, as opposed to, you're right, Eggers' movies are not going for the same tone.
Yeah.
But except for what's his name in
Nosferatu.
in what do you say?
Nosferatu?
In Nosferatu, Aaron
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Aaron Taylor Johnson would fit in a George Roy Hill movie.
Yeah.
But I really like this movie. But I definitely bump on a few things. I'm not as fully bought in, I think, as I was for some of the movies we're going to be talking about later in the series.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of those pastiche moments and some of the character decisions that I sort of highlighted before, some of the twists and turns, I just don't think this movie's great, but I don't think it's as good as The Exorcist or, as good as The Godfather the next year,
Godfather 2.
Yeah, or The Godfather the year before.
Yeah.
But I think this movie is very fun and very, compared to movies now, is 5 out of 5. But, I don't know. I don't know if you feel the same.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, that's part of why I mean, the 70s were such an incredible time for filmmaking. I ultimately get why it was so successful. It was, I didn't bring this up, but it was I think it was at the time of its release, it was like the 4th most successful movie of all time. Like it was like one above The Godfather. Like
this movie made $257 million on a $5 million budget, right?
I think more.
More?
I don't remember what the budget was.
The budget for The Sting was $5.5 million, and it made $257 million domestically.
Yeah, that's crazy. I guess
that's an insane gross for that era.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, it's over $1 billion now.
Yeah.
And people were just crazy for this movie.
Domestically, that's the worldwide gross.
257 is the world, right?
Yeah. Domestic, it was 156. I think the 156 is the thing that's $1 billion. So the 256 is actually probably closer to $2 billion. which is
So it is. It's the end game of.
yeah, it is literally the end game. I mean, yeah, it's you got all your guys, Paul Newman, Robert Shaw.
Can I admit something a little embarrassing that I was thinking about
Go ahead.
during this movie? Because I already brought up the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Not a thing I care about or like even, but I have watched because I was a film fan in the 2010s. I've seen a certain amount. There is one Marvel movie that reminded me of this movie. Do you know which one I'm going to say?
Is it Ant-Man?
No, the Jake Gyllenhaal Spider-Man movie where it's all revealed during one scene that Jake Gyllenhaal has been stinging Spider-Man.
You're right. That's actually good. That's a good call.
It's literally the scene in this movie
Yeah.
where instead of Lonergan, it's Spider-Man.
Yeah. That's funny.
And he's trying to get revenge.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Wow. So we were talking about a Sting remake, and it turns out it's already there.
It's been made.
Yeah, someone already made it. And he's a Spider-Man. He's Spider-Man, so the Sting makes sense, you know?
Oh, they do they bite.
Oh, fuck.
That's the remake. It's called The Bite. That's another thing we could talk about, though. Those interstitials.
Yeah, those are really fun.
Beautiful, painterly, hand-drawn. I love those.
Yeah.
I love those. Those are really, really special.
Yeah. David Maurer, in his book about cons, he mentions that like each part of a con has a different name to it, and that's where they get the interstitials from. And that's probably another reason why he was kind of pissed off that they didn't credit him,
because they literally name checked his work.
Yeah.
I would be pissed too. He has a case.
Yeah. But yeah, those interstitials are really fun. They give it like a storybook quality. My wife asked me if it was based on a book or something, and I was like, sort of. Warner Brothers doesn't want you to think that.
Do you know who? I'm sorry, I'm still on the Wikipedia page for this movie. Do you know who one of the main creative forces behind this movie is? Do you know one of the reasons this movie got made is because of Rob Cohen, director of Fast and the Furious and XXX? That he's the one who discovered the script and brought it and produced the movie.
I didn't realize that was that Rob Cohen.
That's that Rob Cohen, the same Rob Cohen who would give us, I don't know. I was trying to come up with one of. I love this section of his Wikipedia page where he says he is Jewish Buddhist.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Fast and Furious movies do kind of have a Sting quality to them eventually, where they keep revealing that like the new villain was actually in the background the entire time.
The whole time?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's stingy. It's a little stingy. Oh, I got to the bad portion of Rob Cohen's Wikipedia page. Oh, no. He did bad things. Don't like that. Anyway, Rob Cohen, bad person, it seems. I really think that this movie has a very loose, fun quality to it. I can't wait to rewatch it someday with someone who's never seen it before. This is really like light entertainment that, you know, the fact that it won Best Picture is, I think, kind of fun because it's like, you know, when you think about what wins Best Picture, I think like the Sting win Best Picture, and then trying to go rewatch it, you would imagine a cornier movie than what it is.
Yeah,
like it's actually a more sophisticated, more interesting movie than what like an Oscar baity period piece con men movie would be. And I think it's like, you know, people were voting with their dollar back then. They were watching Jaws, they were watching Exorcist. These are good movies, you know, and I.
You heard her first.
What'd you say?
Sorry, I said that in a crazy way. So then my Robert Shaw voice. You heard it here first.
Yep. That populism shall prevail.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts, Paco, before we wrap it up here on The Sting?
The Sting. Yeah, it's just a fun movie. There's a scene in Union Station. But I think it's doubling for Grand Central Station, which is strange. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a great movie, as you mentioned, to watch with people who haven't seen it. It'd be really fun to see this in a theater, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sure
35 millimeter print, real crispy.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be really fun. And because I feel like you wouldn't get as many annoying laughs because it's so funny. But yeah, I don't know.
That's the way to beat repertory audiences, is just program a funny movie.
Yeah. But they don't laugh, and then
Or they'll like laugh like when like, you know, what's his name gets thrown out the window.
but like that stuff doesn't feel like corny, you know? Like the fake, I guess like the one fake death that feels kind of corny is, or the one death that feels kind of corny is when the woman gets shot
Shot in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of stunned by that moment.
Yeah.
Like it's sad because
Yeah.
it's also really quiet afterward.
Yeah.
And I can see people being kind of like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Anyway, I love audiences, and I
Yes.
don't mean to disparage them.
They
Please
need
come
them
watch
to
movies.
Yeah. They should go to the Heights.
Come to the Heights. Oh, that's what I wanted to mention. George Roy Hill is from, where is he from, Paco?
The Twin Cities.
He's from Minneapolis. So
Okay, one of the twins.
he's from one of the twins. So that's I'm after Peter got off the Zoom call, he called it you're in the stink corridor
Yeah.
of George Roy Hill to Chicago, and I love that. And I wanted to get that on mic because I thought that was very funny and clever of him.
Yes.
Any other final thoughts, Paco, on this movie?
Yeah, just it's a fun movie, great watch. It's not trying to, emulate the past perfectly, but I think it's really it's a really good way. Sorry. It's a really good portrayal of how we think of the past to a certain extent. It plays with like our images of the 1930s, and it plays with like our kind of like images of like the past more generally in a really interesting way. And I think like ultimately like kind of like an influential way. Like I feel like a lot of like Simpsons stuff, like past stuff, feels like stuff from The Sting, and I don't know, it's just it's always fun to hang out with Paul Newman and Robert Redford, and like our pal, future guest star Roger Ebert. I think if I were to give this out of 4 stars, I would give it 4 stars. Kind of like the Chicago flag.
That's a really good point. That I actually hadn't thought about before. That Roger also was mimicking the flag.
Yeah.
I really like this movie. I definitely bumped on certain details this watch, my second watch in a few years, but there's still so much more that is enjoyable. I think Paul Newman as a movie star carries the way through. I think that Shaw is Lonergan, played by Shaw, is one of the great villains, and I think is an underrated villain in my opinion. And I think this movie is just so much fun. There's so much detail, richness, and I liked all that stuff that you're talking about pastiche in this movie. And if I had to give it, anything, I'd give it 4 floating dollar bills that have been snatched out of the air. Kind of like the flag. Paco, have you been watching anything recently that you want to recommend to the people, or
have I watched anything
or reading anything?
Or reading anything? I will actually recommend a book this time. A book that I will actually talk a little bit more about in our next episode on Thief, because it's sort of inspired Michael Mann in some ways. But it's this book called No Beast So Fierce by Edward Bunker. Edward Bunker was a long time, like, for most of his life until his 40s, he was like in and out of prison. Like he spent most of his time in prison, like in juvenile prison, or like later in his adult, like he spent 8 years, I think, was the maximum amount of time. And No Beast So Fierce, he wrote it while I think in prison, right after he had been out for a few years. And it's a fictional story, but it definitely has autobiographical qualities. And it's about a guy who, like him, has spent most of his life in prison, and he's finally free. And he tries really, really hard to live, like the straight life, not get into crimes, and he's just kind of like immediately pushed back into it by the system and by like a shitty parole officer. And it's kind of like, it's a really like thrilling novel, but it's also like really like deeply sad and lonely. And I think a lot of that loneliness, I think, ends up inspiring Michael Mann. Eventually, after the success of the novel, they made a movie called Straight Time with Dustin Hoffman, and Bunker eventually stopped being in prison and wrote a few more books. I think a few others were adapted to novels, and he actually was an actor a few times, and he showed up in Heat. So you will hear about him again, but it's a very good book. No Beast So Fierce.
No Beast So Fierce. Paco will link to that in the show notes.
Yes.
And the recommendation I'll make this week, recommendation is a little strong for a movie that I was very mixed on, but it's worth watching. A movie I watched this week, Agnes Varda's Les Créatures, The Creatures. Sci-fi, very bizarre 60s movie that she made with Catherine Deneuve. I was very kindly invited to the Trilon for their you've seen it. I saw your review. I looked up your review immediately.
That is so funny. Like I was like, this is a one Agnes Varda movie I haven't seen. That's crazy. And then
deep pandemic watch, it looks like, right?
No, February 2022.
Oh, so we just don't have brains. No, I watched this movie thanks to the Trilon. It was one of their volunteer screenings that I was invited to. Shout out the Trilon, probably in the top 2 of all theaters in the Twin Cities areas. Just fantastic folks. We've been working with them for the Noir series, and we will be working with them again for the Hitchcock series. We sort of share programming with them. But I watched it there, and I was mixed on it. I think everyone at that screening liked it a little bit more than I did.
Mm-hmm.
But Caitlin turned to me, because Caitlin is in town, and said she's Shyamalaning halfway through, and I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So I liked it more after that comment, which I thought was very funny, and that will tie to my other recommendation. I am reading M. Night Shyamalan's book that he wrote with Nicholas Sparks called Remain, which is what he'll be making his next movie based on. And I am very excited for it. And I thought a little bit about what you said to me about not reading Remain before watching. Is that like the last couple books that you read that he based movies on? This is where I would push back a little bit. This is something that he's very clearly writing alongside Nicholas Sparks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not that you, Paco, need to watch it, or read it. You will watch the movie. You've already been won over to the cause. But I find this movie actually, I have a little book club with my friend Morgan, and I'm finding this book to be very charming and fun, and just like kind of a perfect match of tones. Like, Nicholas Sparks is not the best writer in the world, but like the dialogue and the story are there, and I'm like, this is great material to make a movie out of.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited for that film. Shout out to M. Night Shyamalan. So Remain. Read Remain.
And watch Les Créatures, which apparently I have done.
Yeah.
And I gave it a heart. So that's...
It's really weird. It's it's kind of, it reminded me a lot of Robert Altman's Quintet.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah. Also bad, like sci-fi. Like every great director needs a sci-fi folly, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So I find Les Créatures more interesting from a I love the films of Agnes Varda direction than I do as a film itself.
Okay. Yeah.
There's like multiple scenes where a guy starts talking to a rabbit, or there's people playing chess or a board game with people's lives. Do you remember that?
No, I truly don't remember a single thing of this movie.
This movie is insane. It's really it's unhinged, and in a very confusing way, and not in a way that I found very satisfying.
Mhm.
But it's interesting. La Créature and Remain are my suggestions this week.
Yes. And as a reminder, as we've mentioned a few times now, our next episode will be on Thief. Actually, that's kind of not true. But
Wait. Are we going to do an episode next on The Bride?
yes.
Okay, so you have 2 extra episodes
Yes.
to watch Thief. Instead, next episode, we are going to be talking about Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride.
The Bride, which is set in Chicago, apparently. I don't
Mhm.
know if it was filmed here, but we will
It
find out.
definitely was not filmed here. I looked it up. All right. You
right.
guys, please rate, review, subscribe, and email us at chicagopodfilmcast@gmail.com. And otherwise, we'll see you next time. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. This is where you fade in the music.
Yeah. Send us some fishing links. I think that'd be really funny.
Yeah,
Sounds
really
like-
fuck with us.
Yeah. So we're talking
Maybe
about
you should
cons.
con us.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of the modern con man movie.
Yeah. Fishing.
Is like, ooh,
Screen
Life
Life
Con
Fish-
Man.
Oh.
Okay, we have to start writing. Everyone have a good one.